Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Clayton Bus Rapid Transit meeting. We will be starting shortly. The meeting is scheduled to start at 11. We're going to try to start as close to 11 as possible while allowing participants to join us on the Zoom and in the YouTube. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning for the Clayton County Bus Rapid Transit meeting. We're going to allow people to get into the Zoom and to get on YouTube. If you are in the Zoom and you want to just watch it live on YouTube, you can click the link on our MARTA homepage at itsmarta.com. There's a link at the top. If you know someone that you think should join this meeting and they did not register for the Zoom, just have them go to itsmarta.com. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are going to start in about 30 more seconds. Welcome to the Clayton County Bus Rapid Transit meeting. If you want to view this live on YouTube, you can join us by going to itsmarta.com. That's ITSMARTA. If you know others that want to join but didn't register via Zoom, also send them to itsmarta.com. That's ITSMARTA.com. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. I am Erica Pines, Senior Director of External Affairs at MARTA. I just want to welcome everyone to this meeting on this Saturday morning. It's a beautiful day outside, and we are just thankful that you chose to join us as we talk about the planning of this project in Clayton County. So this morning during the presentation, we do have a couple of ground rules to make the meeting go smooth. Just want to let you know, if you're joining us from Zoom, your microphones have been muted to avoid any background noise. If you want to submit project-specific questions, if you're on the Zoom, please submit those in the Q&A section, not in the chat section. If you're on the Zoom, go ahead and familiarize yourself with Q&A. Questions in the chat will not be submitted. So please, if you have any questions about this project, post those in the Q&A section. If you're watching from YouTube, you can post those in the comments section. Throughout this meeting, we're going to be gathering those questions, and at the end, we'll come back and have a Q&A section. If you have questions about customer service, about our essential services plan, anything not related to this project, please don't post those questions here. Please send an email with those questions to custserve@itsmarta.com. That's CUSTSERV@ITSMARTA.com. It is very important that you send service-related questions to our customer service team, because we like to log and track the responses on those questions. We will address as many questions and comments as time will allow. And if you miss any details during this presentation, it will be posted on the project website. And we're going to talk about the project website later, because that is something that we really want you all to use. Thank you. So today you will be hearing from two presenters. We have Olin Dalehausen. Olin, you want to just say hi?
Good morning, everyone. And thanks again for sharing a bit of your Saturday with us.
Thank you, Olin. And you will also hear from Tracy Roberson. Tracy?
Good morning. I'm happy to be here and glad that you have joined us here today. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy and Olin. So let me just give you all the flow of today's presentation. We're going to start off, Olin is going to start us off with the project overview and background. Then he will begin to talk about the BRT characteristics and show you a video of what this service actually looks like in another city. He'll walk you through the proposed project alignment and stations. He'll talk about the dedicated lanes and overview, and then we'll get into some budget items from Tracy, where we'll go through the BRT development potential, the next steps, and then we'll talk about the public comment period and the project website that we want you to share and engage on. We're going to start first with two polling questions. If you are watching from YouTube, you can go to connectclayton.com to take these to take this poll. If you're in the Zoom, you can do the poll now. The polling questions that we want to ask you about this morning are: where do you live? And how did you hear about today's session? These questions are very important to us as we inform this project. So if you're on the Zoom, you would just need to scroll to answer both of the questions. And as I mentioned, if you're watching from YouTube, you can visit connectclayton.com, and Tony will type out the name of that website in the YouTube chat. So we'll allow about 60 seconds to answer these questions. Thank you. If you are just joining the meeting, if you're on the Zoom, you will have two polling questions on your screen. They are: where do you live? And how did you hear about today's section? You will have to scroll to see both of those questions. If you're just joining on the YouTube, you can visit connectclayton.com and answer those polling questions. And I think we're ready to release the results. Okay, we have quite a few people from unincorporated Clayton County. We have people from Riverdale, which is great because that's where the majority of this project will be located. And then we see Jonesboro and College Park also nicely represented this morning. Thank you all for being here. And my screen froze. If you could pull the poll back up, that would be great. Okay, and then as far as how you heard about it, it's good to see that a lot of you received our text message. That's something new that we're trying to engage people, sending texts to local people in our project areas. And then it's good to see our partners with our local community and advocacy group sharing the message. And we also have the social media, the website, and other. Thank you. So now with that poll being done, I'm going to turn it over to Olin. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. So to kick us off, I'll talk a little bit about where the Clayton Bus Rapid Transit came from. So initially in 2014, when Clayton voted to join MARTA, one of the parts of that was to study high capacity transit and plan for high capacity transit in Clayton County. And another piece of that legislation was the formation of the Citizens Advisory Group, which is a group of Clayton County residents who are appointed by the Clayton County Board of Commissioners to advise on the planning and implementation of high capacity transit in Clayton County. The Citizens Advisory Group pretty early on identified a need for high capacity transit in the western part of Clayton County serving Riverdale. And we took that and further developed it through the Clayton County Transit System Plan. For those of you who don't know, the Clayton County Transit System Plan is a 30-year vision for transit in Clayton County, and it wraps together the high capacity transit, local bus service, and other services such as the express bus service that's currently running to provide an integrated vision for how the transit network in Clayton County will be developed. And so we just wrapped up the Clayton County Transit System Plan last month, and that's available on a separate website. So as part of the transit system plan, we did a lot of public involvement and outreach, and also some stakeholder outreach, where we allowed folks to interactively with a computer at the meetings draw in where they wanted to see transit lines, and also tell us a bit about what transit modes they would like to see on those lines. And they could also input where they wanted to see transit stations. So this effort builds on that early need identification by the Citizens Advisory Group, and also all the input that we've received throughout the transit system plan. So today we'll be showing you our draft alignments for potential bus rapid transit service serving the western half of Clayton County. So also behind this need, we developed a purpose and need statement that looks at, why are we doing the project? So the purpose is to provide greater access to jobs, to provide additional reliable and frequent transit service, to improve regional access and connectivity to the Atlanta metro region. So this one is key. The service will connect in at the College Park MARTA station, and we'll talk about travel time savings a little bit later, but essentially it allows Clayton County citizens a faster trip onto the MARTA rail system so that they can access more destinations throughout the region in the same amount of time, and with a focus on employment centers such as the airport, downtown and midtown, Buckhead, or anywhere else in the region they need to go. And also, since the inception of the local bus service in 2015, MARTA has seen high demand for transit services in Clayton County that's increased. High average weekly ridership on routes 191 and 196 make this corridor a good candidate for implementation. And in fact, the 196 is the second highest ridership route in the entire system. And finally, the demographics along the corridor are very supportive of transit. I'd like to highlight that over 10% of the households in the corridor do not currently have access to a vehicle, and that's always a great predictor of potential transit demand. The proposed project, it follows state routes 85 and 138 for most of the alignment. As I mentioned, it's currently served by the 191 and 196 routes. We would build this in two phases. Phase one would be from College Park MARTA station to the South Lake Mobility Center, and that South Lake Mobility Center will be right near the South Lake Mall. We haven't determined exactly where that would be yet. As I mentioned, we're just kicking off this planning process. And phase two would be from the Riverdale Mobility Center in the southern part of Riverdale down to the Justice Center Mobility Center that's currently existing now. A final point is that the local bus service would continue on routes 191 and 196. This would not be a replacement. This would supplement that existing service. So now that I've talked a bit about the alignment, this will be a rail-like transit service on rubber tires. So this is a premium service. It goes around traffic in dedicated lanes. It'll be all-day service. So it'll operate the same as the MARTA system from a little bit after 4:30 in the morning till just after 1 o'clock the next morning. Buses will come much more frequently than on the local routes. There will be a bus every 10 minutes, so folks won't have to wait long for service. And we'll also include transit signal priority and queue jump lanes. What transit signal priority is it allows the bus to signal ahead to a traffic signal to allow it to hold a green light so that the bus can pass through if the light's about to change, which helps to speed up the bus service. And queue jump lanes are lanes on the outside of the intersection on the right-hand side that are bus only, which would allow the bus to go around any traffic that's stacked up waiting at the light. And that, in tandem with the transit signal priority, allows us to very cost effectively in some locations, very easily speed up the bus. And the last part is this is a premium service, so there will be unique vehicle branding, and the buses will be a little bit more upscale than the existing local bus service. And we have an example video that we would like to show you at this time of what bus service can look like. And this particular video was taken in Los Angeles, California on an existing line. So as you can see, it works almost exactly like rail. Folks have defined station areas. You can get a fare ticket ahead of time and jump right on the bus through all doors, just like just like a rail system. The only difference is it's a bus vehicle running on rubber tires. And with that, we talked about earlier we got a lot of input on proposed station locations during the initial public involvement for the Clayton system plan. And so we also took a look at and did some analysis and looked at some quantitative factors to understand where potentially the best locations would be. So first on the list is proximity to existing activity centers. Examples of activity centers would be the South Lake Mall or the hospital at the Southern Regional Medical Center. We looked at proximity to major intersections, and we also looked for where the higher density land uses were in the county because higher density implies that there's more folks in that area and more potential ridership. A key part of this is connections with other transit services, such as the express bus service and also the local Clayton County service that's out there now. And finally, pedestrian access and facilities were very important. We wanted to be sure that folks could walk or bike to the stations as needed and do so in a safe manner. So we have another poll that we would like to hear from you. The two poll questions this time are to choose the most important amenities to have available at station locations and on the vehicles, and also how you would like to access the proposed transit stations. And these polling questions will help us out when we move into the design of the system to understand what's most important to the folks out there and allow us to target the improvements. So I'll give everyone about a minute to go ahead and vote. And as a reminder, there are 2 questions, so don't forget to scroll down. All right, I'll give everyone a few more seconds to get your final answer in. Choose wisely. And all right, let's go ahead and wrap this poll up. So as far as station amenities, access to a park and ride lot is the clear leader here. And second is real-time arrival information. I'll talk a little bit more about the park and ride lots and on the next few slides, but the good news is we are planning park and ride lots at 3 mobility centers. And it looks like it's a tie between walking and driving alone to access the station. So thanks guys for reinforcing that we were on the right track, looking at the pedestrian and bike amenities for getting to the stations. So as I alluded to, mobility hubs are going to be a big part of this. So these are transit stations. They're integrated with the local community, and they offer a seamless connection and transfer between the bus rapid transit and local service for intra-county travel. During the system plan public outreach, we learned that folks were pretty happy with the bus service, local bus services is and getting to MARTA stations, but it was a little bit difficult for them to use the transit service to get around the county since the network was very focused on the MARTA stations. So the mobility hubs are strategically located throughout the county and provide for these, not only a transfer to the BRT, but between local routes so that it'll improve the circulation within Clayton County and folks can more easily do their business or visit friends or use the transit for whatever they need to do within the county. And the other characteristic of the mobility hubs is the amenities. So they will include ticket vending machines. These will be Breeze card machines. And we also heard a lot in the initial public involvement that it was difficult for Clayton citizens to get to the Breeze card vending machines. The closest machine currently is at the College Park or airport stations. So we would have ticket vending machines at all the mobility hubs to make it a little easier for folks. There'll be shelters with seating, bicycle parking, trash bins, and there will be park and ride lots at all of our mobility hub locations for the Clayton BRT. And again, I can't emphasize enough, a big piece of these mobility hubs is the easy transfer between the BRT and local service so that folks can easily get to the BRT and catch a quick ride into the College Park MARTA station and the rest of the system. So proposed phase 1, it's College Park to the South Lake Mobility Center, and key destinations are the South Lake Mall at the end, also the Southern Regional Medical Center. And we're proposing mobility centers at Riverdale and South Lake, and those are the big dark blue P's on the map to the right. And we'll also pick up the Riverdale Express Park and Ride where folks can transfer to the existing express bus and get a ride directly into downtown from there without having to travel all the way to College Park and then up the north-south line. Forecast ridership for this phase is 7,200 riders per day, and the travel time savings compared to the existing local bus that's out there now is 19 minutes. And phase 2, the construction of phase 2 would be from Riverdale Mobility Center to the Justice Center Mobility Center. But once that BRT is built, it'll be a 1-seat ride. The buses would come from College Park MARTA station down to Riverdale and then continue on to the Justice Center Mobility Center. And key destinations on phase 2 are downtown Jonesboro. And with this one, we're adding the Justice Center Mobility Center. And we're also adding the Jonesboro Express Park and Ride lot. And similar to phase 1, we will serve the Riverdale Express Park and Ride lot and also the Riverdale Mobility Center. Ridership for this, we forecast an additional 3,600 riders per day. That's in addition to the previous 7,200. So for both phase 1 and phase 2, we'd look at a combined ridership would be over 10,000 per day. And travel time savings is 27 minutes. So dedicated lanes, as I mentioned earlier, they're a key part of the bus rapid transit system because they allow the bus to go around traffic and they provide a more reliable travel time. And there's two basic ways to get dedicated lanes. One way is a roadway expansion to add bus rapid transit. So that would be, and the other is to convert an existing lane to bus rapid transit. So in the expansion scenario, we would look at expanding the roadway on high traffic roadways where we don't have the capacity to take excess capacity to take an existing lane, and where the expansion can be accommodated either within existing right of way or acquiring small amounts of right of way. The second option is to convert an existing lane to BRT. So we would do that where on a low traffic roadway with 4 or more lanes, where we don't see any congestion currently and don't anticipate it in the future, where we could reallocate to BRT only. And this would be a restriping with no expansion of the roadway. And some areas will be in mixed traffic, and those are roadways where dedicated lanes would lead to extensive displacements, or roadways with constraints such as a railroad corridor, major freeway overpass. And finally, mixed traffic can be on roadways with low amounts of current and future congestion, because there's really the bus can operate at full speed in the existing system and there's no need to add a lane. So I have a couple examples here of what these lanes could potentially look like. The first one is roadway expansion, and this shows, the rendering shows just on the north side of the city of Riverdale, just south of Garden Walk Boulevard on State Route 85. Right now there's a grass median out there with plenty of space to do an expansion and fit the bus rapid transit line in the center of the roadway without disturbing any of the businesses alongside the roadway. And moving a little bit south along the State Route 85 corridor into downtown Riverdale proper is an example of mixed traffic. So in the downtown Riverdale area, there's no longer a grass median. It's a 2-way left turn lane down the middle, and on either side of the roadway, there's commercial buildings and businesses and parking right up to the roadway. So it doesn't leave us any space to expand the roadway. And this area currently sees fairly high traffic volumes and is expected to be congested in the future. So we don't have the opportunity to take a lane through here. So this would be a mixed traffic area. And dedicated lanes, they increase service reliability. So that means better on-time performance. That means you're predictable. You can arrive on time to work. You can be confident in how the bus will run. Faster speeds because you're bypassing congestion. And so when planning this, we strategically placed the dedicated lanes on roads with high rates of congestion. And fully dedicated lanes are the goal for as much of the alignment as possible. So for the analysis, we did 2 scenarios. We looked at how many dedicated lanes total can we put in? And then we also did a scenario where we backed that down to see costs from a cost-effective perspective. Where do we get the most bang for the buck with the dedicated lanes? So I'll talk about the cost-effective scenario first. So we proposed dedicated lanes along 55% of phase 1 and 50% when phase 2 kicks in. So the key here is to meet the federal definition of bus rapid transit and be eligible for federal funding, which Tracy will tell us about later. At least 50% of the corridor has to be in dedicated lanes. So for our dedicated lanes, they start at Phoenix Boulevard and West Fayetteville Road, and then follow Riverdale Road and Garden Walk Boulevard to State Route 85 and come down State Route 85 a little bit to the northern edge of Riverdale. And that's where that first example of the dedicated lanes was shown. And then we do mixed traffic through Riverdale, and coming south, the dedicated lanes will be on the southern edge of Riverdale along State Route 85, and they will also be on 1941 from State Route 138 to the Justice Center Mobility Center, and leaving Riverdale to the east. The dedicated lanes in this scenario would be along Lamar Hutchinson Parkway, and then along Upper Riverdale Road, starting at the hospital, along 1941 and Mount Zion Road, over to the South Lake Mall area. So the mixed traffic sections in this one would be from the College Park MARTA station to West Fayetteville Road, and then through downtown Riverdale, and then a little bit out Upper Riverdale Road to the east to the hospital, and State Route 138 would also be in mixed traffic. So the benefits in this scenario are 19 minutes of travel time savings for phase 1 and 27 minutes of travel time savings for phase 2. So looking on at the maximum dedicated lanes scenario, we would have, instead of starting at West Fayetteville Road, the dedicated lanes would start at Old National and continue along Godby Road and Phoenix Boulevard, all the way down to the northern edge of Riverdale. Again, we'd be in mixed traffic through Riverdale, and that's just based on the constraints. There's just not right-of-way available through there. And then it would pick up State Route 138 would be all dedicated lanes. And similarly, leaving Riverdale to the east, all of Upper Riverdale Road, east of Lamar Hutchinson Parkway, would be dedicated lanes out to South Lake Mall. So I want to draw your attention down to the benefits of dedicated lanes in this scenario. It's almost exactly the same as the previous scenario. We did not gain a whole lot by adding dedicated lanes. And this is mostly due to the fact that along State Route 138, it's just not very congested now, and it's not forecasted to be congested in the future. So we really don't pick up any travel time savings benefit. So the summary of our analysis is the costs and impacts are significantly more for the 78% dedicated lanes, and benefits turned out to be very limited. So the capital costs are 148% higher for 78% dedicated lanes. And what this means, as funding is limited for transportation projects and very competitive, you have the best chance of getting funded if you can keep your capital costs a little bit lower. And from an impact standpoint, 156% more parcels are impacted under the 78% dedicated, and displacements are 1,000% higher. So what this means is, instead of doing, we're anticipating under the 50% scenario, we're anticipating a environmental process that would last 12 to 18 months, and we'd be completing what's called an environmental assessment. However, with the impacts and also the displacements increasing under the 78% scenario, the federal government would require us to do an environmental impact statement, which requires a higher level of analysis and effort. And those generally tend to take 3 to 4 years to complete. So the 78% dedicated lanes would cost more and push back our schedule and implementation, and the benefits are very limited. The travel time is 1% faster, and the average bus speed is 2% higher. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Tracy to tell us how much all this is going to cost and what the schedule will be.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Olin. You did a very, very thorough job sharing all of those details. I definitely appreciate that. So I am going to share with you the project costs, and this is going to be broken up into the 55% scenario and the 78% scenario that Olin just shared with you. So what you see on the screen here is the project cost if we go with the 55% dedicated lane scenario. Phase 1, both capital costs and operating costs together, is $375 million. Phase 2 is $174 million, with the entire project cost being $549 million. This is for the 55% dedicated lane scenario. And with this particular scenario, if you look at the bottom of the screen, we will be applying for federal funding, and we, based on our current analysis, are optimistic that we can get up to $99 million to offset the cost of this project going with this particular scenario. As Olin has already mentioned, when we look at the 78% dedicated lanes project cost, it does drive the overall cost up to 788 million versus the 549 for the previous scenario. And with this particular scenario, we would also attempt to get federal funding as well. However, this puts us in a different environmental class, and the competition is much stronger. So while we do have that potential of getting up to 220 million for this one, we feel more optimistic about the 55% scenario, but both are on the table for now, and we wanted you all to have the opportunity to see both scenarios. So with that, let's take a look at the schedule. If we go with the 55% dedicated lane scenario, the schedule is on display here, and we will be operating in 2026. If we look at the different phases, we are finalizing the planning phase now, and we will begin the environmental phase immediately following our current public outreach. We will go through preliminary engineering, final design, and then construction, with each one of these different phases lasting anywhere from 12 months to 18 months to 2 years, with some of them overlapping. And with this particular scenario, 55% dedicated lanes, 2026 will be the BRT operation date. Now let's look at the 78% and what that does to the schedule. We will go through the exact same phases, of course. However, if we go with this scenario and increase the dedicated lanes, it will push us out to 2030 for operations. So those are the two schedules there. And now let's take a look at one thing that's very, very exciting about implementing high capacity transit in the county: potential development. This is an ultimate benefit of implementing high capacity transit such as BRT. Economic development. And we know that economic development is Clayton County's #1 priority. To that fact, MARTA is working very, very diligently with all jurisdictions along this corridor. In fact, we are working with all of the jurisdictions within Clayton County to create transit-friendly land use and zoning ordinances, specifically for the purpose of future development. If you take a look at the renderings to the right, here's an example of potential development. And this scenario is near the intersection of Terra Boulevard and Mount Zion Parkway. And what you see here is a mix of townhomes, vertical mixed use, and small multifamily condo. So again, the land use zoning ordinances are being worked on and structured right now, so that as this BRT is implemented, these will be possibilities for development in the county. So with that, we've shared with you all of our analysis and where we are to date. And now we'd like to share our next steps and where do we go from here. So thank you all again for being here at this public meeting. Following this meeting, we are going to have a public comment period. That is a period of 30 days. It actually started on the 15th and it goes to May the 15th. We will continue to coordinate with your Citizens Advisory Group and coordinate and brief the Clayton County Commissioners. And following all of our stakeholder outreach and public outreach, we will begin the environmental process for the BRT project. Also, as we enter into the environmental, we will continue to come back to you and have public meetings to keep you abreast of what's going on. Our next round of public meetings have not actually been scheduled, but we are looking that it may potentially happen by the end of the year. But if you are on this call today, you will be kept up to date on when that is going to occur. And you can stay in the know by going to the project website, connectclayton.com. So with that, I'd like to share a little bit about the public comment period. Again, it is a 30-day period. We need to hear from you. We need to hear from your neighbors. We need for you to reach out to others and ask them to go to the project website and give us feedback, and comments. At the project website, you will see the fact sheets, you will see the recording of this meeting, the video, maps, all of the attributes of BRT, everything you need to understand this project will be on the website. And if you don't want to leave your comments on the website, you do have the option of calling in to our comment line, which is 404-848-5299. Or if you prefer leaving an email, email clayton@itsmarta.com. And again, the public comment period is April 15th through May 15th. So please, please make sure you go to the website and give us your feedback, because we really, really do need your input. So with that, I believe we will go to our Q&A session, and I'm going to turn it back over to you, Erica.
Thank you, Olin and Tracy, for that very thorough presentation. If we could go back to the public comment page so that our viewers can see that. If we could keep this page up during the Q&A, unless we have to go show some project examples, that would be great. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Remember the connectclayton.com website. We launched that site for the 30-day period because we really want to hear from you. Please send that email to anyone you know that has an interest in this project. Thank you. So with the Q&A, again, if you're on the Zoom, you can still submit questions through the Q&A function on Zoom or post a question in the comments section on YouTube. So the first question I have is, the expected increase in ridership will cause more parked cars and bikes, etc., in your designated lots. Therefore, is the MARTA Police Department expected to hire to increase security in order to meet the demand of your expanding footprint, i.e. prevent car break-in or thefts? Olin, I'm going to toss that question to you.
So I'm going to toss it to Tracy because she's the O&M multi-purpose facility project manager, and I don't want to steal her thunder.
Thank you, Olin. Thanks, Tracy.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you so much. To that, as Olin just mentioned, there will be an operations and maintenance facility in Clayton County, which will include a MARTA police precinct. So the MARTA police will be very much in Clayton County and designated to also monitor these hubs and the park and rides where people park. Throughout the MARTA system now, anywhere where we have a park and ride situations, like at the rail systems, our MARTA police do monitor and always are very, very present in these facilities where people gather. So the short answer is yes, that is definitely forthcoming. And the good thing about Clayton is that you will have a precinct within the county itself.
Thank you, Tracy. That's very good to know. The next question is, if dedicated lanes are not built with the original project in a certain area and in the future the need arises, will there be opportunities to add dedicated lanes? Olin or Jennifer? Who's got first? Jennifer, I'll give it to you.
Hey everyone, this is Jennifer. Thank you for the question. In terms of being able to come back and add the add dedicated lanes later, if the need should arise, that is something that will have to be evaluated at that time based on mobility, based on the development that is around that particular area. So in short, there's no really quick answer for that right now. It would have to be evaluated in that particular time later on. I will say that we have evaluated future traffic volumes along with existing traffic volumes when deciding where the dedicated laneage should be, in that areas that do have higher expected traffic volumes where there would be more bottlenecks and stuff. We have strategically placed those dedicated lanes in that area to make sure that we are alleviating as much of those traffic conditions as possible.
Thank you, Jennifer. And while we're talking about dedicated lanes, Jennifer, I'm going to keep you up in areas near express lots. In areas near express lots, will express coaches be able to use the dedicated lanes?
So that's something that we would later on decide further into the planning stage, but it is expected normally other coaches that do provide transit service are able to use the dedicated lanes. There would just have, in order to do that, there would have to be a way to access the express bus. I'm sorry, the express lot from the express bus. And so normally those details are further ironed out more through the design and environmental process. But normally all of the other transit operators that are in the area are usually able to access the dedicated lanes as well.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. We have a comment and a question kind of combined in one. Student mobility is a major problem, and although the 78% plan may be long-term, will the benefits last longer? Olin, you want to tackle that one?
Sure, and this time I'll remember to unmute myself.
Okay,
So,
no problem.
Yeah, so the benefits would last longer, and as Jennifer mentioned in answering the question about adding dedicated lanes later on as conditions warrant, yes, we could certainly add to the system, and we anticipate we're looking at a horizon year of about 2030. So planners after us, hopefully I will be comfortably retired by then, we'll have to keep an eye on conditions and come back and add additional lanes potentially as traffic picks up.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is this is an ongoing project, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. The next question, with the cost, and Olin, I'll just keep it on you for this one since we're talking about the 78% versus the 55%. Okay. With the cost of the project, 78% or 55%, will the new transit plan require a fare increase or another bill to be passed by Clayton County voters similar to what was passed in 2014?
So the good news is that the 2014 Act included money for this, so we'll be able to fund this out of the existing sales tax, and we would not need a fare increase for this specific project.
And it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, team, that the BRT routes throughout the system that we're bringing on board will follow the same fare structure as our regular service. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Okay, and then this one I can take. Will this presentation be recorded and made available? Yes, this presentation is being recorded live on YouTube. YouTube typically takes about 24 to 48 hours to repost after this meeting. So hopefully by Monday afternoon, you will be able to go to our YouTube channel and see this recording. And we also had a meeting Thursday evening. That recording will also be available. And the presentation, team, let me know, is this presentation also on the Clayton County site or like iterations of the presentation?
Yes, iterations of this presentation is on the website. So you'll be able to view all of these slides on the website.
Thank you, Tracy. And that website is connectclayton.com. Okay, next question. For late night events at Mercedes-Benz Stadium or Phillips Arena, will you coordinate with them for a special time period or later route on these specific days, just in case citizens from the South parked in Riverdale or Morrow versus departing from a train station? Who wants to take that?
We have someone from service planning on the line. We have David on the line, and
David, can you come in and help us answer that question, please?
Yes. So typically with regards to service to and from Mercedes-Benz Stadium or State Farm Arena, there wouldn't necessarily be service coordination between that destination and Clayton County. Typically, the service schedules are designed for weekday, Saturday, and Sunday service. And there's typically no special service during event days at that stadium, except for local service immediately around the stadium, but not necessarily to or from Clayton County.
Okay, thank you, David. Excuse me. Thank you, David, for that answer. And let me see. I think we're getting down to the last of the questions this morning. So thank you guys for such a great presentation. We'll do one additional question. How was the public involved in informing this process? And I'm going to say how was, and I'm going to add how is the public involved in informing this process since we're at the beginning stages. Tracy, if you could address that, that would be fantastic.
Sure. Thank you, Erica. The public has been very much involved since day one planning this project. As Olin mentioned when he kicked off the meeting, we have a citizens advisory group that was put together once the county chose to be a part of the MARTA service area. And the citizens advisory group's responsibility is to guide and the process of high capacity transit and be there as transit ambassadors to help us plan this project. So that particular group has been very, very instrumental. We also have a stakeholder advisory committee. We also have a technical advisory committee made up of people within the community. And we brief the commissioners constantly and get feedback from elected officials. We work with your mayors. So the input has been very, very robust from day one. We've been out in the community working with the citizens of Clayton County to determine what your needs are and what's going to best serve you. So that's ongoing. And again, we come back and do meetings such as this periodically, so everyone has an opportunity to weigh in.
Thank you, Tracy. And that concludes the questions, but just piggybacking on what Tracy said, we want to definitely hear from you. That's why we're intentional about launching the site for you to provide your feedback over the course of 30 days. Our first public meeting was April 15th, and that site will be up to May 15th. So we definitely need your feedback to help us inform this project. As we stated, please visit connectclayton.com. If you have networks, please share that site with your networks. Please share that site with your friends and family. And we're going to end this meeting, but we're not ending the discussion. We are going to have this site up for 30 days. Email us, call us, submit comments, and we will be back to you all as we compile that information. And we're going to go ahead and end for the day. And once again, thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.